I was about to say, I do, when my bride stopped the ceremony for a selfie and I realized I was just content. At the altar, in front of 1,000 guests, she held up her phone and told me to smile like you're not overwhelmed, because we were trending. The vows felt less like promises and more like a product launch, complete with drones, sponsorships, and a breakup hashtag ready to deploy. Somewhere between the ring light and the reception highlight reel, I stopped feeling like a groom and started feeling like a watermark. Hi, I'm Nate, 28, and I was just about to say, I do, when my bride turned to me, held up her phone like it was a damn Oscar, and said, hold on, babe, the lighting is perfect right now. My followers are going to love this. There's a moment in every wedding where time just slows down. For most people, it's when the music swells, the bride walks down the aisle, the veil lifts. For me, it was when I stood at the altar, sweaty in a three-piece tux, heart pounding, looking into the eyes of the woman I thought I'd spend forever with, and she whipped out her phone like we were about to unbox a ring light, not exchange vows. 1,000 guests. My entire extended family. Her entire influencer entourage. And there she was, holding the ceremony hostage for Instagram reels. I just need, 2 seconds. Okay, 3, Gabby, tilt the bouquet higher. No, higher. Perfect. Nate, smile like you're not overwhelmed. We're trending already. Everyone laughed. Everyone except my grandma, who whispered, is this a wedding or a product launch? I wish I could tell you this was a one-time glitch in the Matrix. But if I'm honest, it was the climax of a year-long transformation. And I had ignored every flashing red flag like a man who thought love could be filtered into perfection. Maya wasn't always like this. When we met, she was a lifestyle blogger with a modest following and a borderline addiction to herbal teas. She'd post recipes and rainy day book stacks. But after our engagement, something shifted. The wedding planning turned into a full-blown digital campaign. Every vendor choice, every napkin fold, every accidental dress preview had a caption and a hashtag. I started as a fiancé. I became a brand extension. And to be clear, I wasn't against social media. Hell, I took half the proposal photos myself. But somewhere between the second engagement shoot and a 6-figure sponsorship deal for a cake knife, I started feeling less like her partner and more like a prop. A necessary backdrop to her main character energy. But love makes you rationalize. Especially when the person you love is genuinely kind underneath it all. Or used to be. That's what I kept telling myself. She's just excited. It's just one day. It's for memories. Until the morning of the wedding, when I found her sitting in the bridal suite not journaling or meditating, but approving a branded content post with the caption, today's not about the dress. It's about the journey. Hashtag Nayaya Wedding. Nayaya. Our ship name. She had merch. Back at the altar, she finally finished her selfie reel and nodded to the officiant. Okay. Ready. Let's get married. And I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to. But something inside me cracked, soft and seismic. Because in that moment, I didn't feel like a groom. I felt like a watermark. And I wasn't sure if this wedding was for us or for them, her fans, her feed, her future deals. But I said my vows. She said hers. People cheered. And as we kissed, I heard the click of her photographer's shutter louder than the applause. I thought that would be the hardest moment of the day. It wasn't. The reception was held at a vineyard estate that cost more than my entire college education. There were fairy lights in the trees, signature cocktails with puns on our names, Nayaya Spritz, and a 3-tiered chandelier hanging outside. No one knew how it was suspended. I joked it was held up by the weight of my growing dread. Maya swept through the party like a queen launching a product line. She changed dresses twice. Once for golden hour content, and again for what she called the vibe shift. I didn't know what that meant. But the second dress had sequins, a slit to her hip, and a cape. An actual cape. Meanwhile, I was somewhere between a mannequin and a caterer. I held her train. I carried her flats. I was introduced to brand reps and managers and a girl named Zoe who did aesthetic consults. I met 4 different people who called themselves head of partnerships, and 0 people who asked how I was feeling. During our first dance, I thought maybe, we'd have a quiet moment. Just the two of us, like it was meant to be. But right before the music started, Maya whispered, "Keep your eyes up. The drone's getting a wide shot." The drone. Yes. There was a drone. Buzzing above us like a digital mosquito with a GoPro. I couldn't even hear the music. Just a mechanical hum and the sound of Maya's voice saying, "Smile, babe," through clenched teeth. I smiled. I danced. I told myself it was just the stress of the day. That the woman who kissed me at sunset under an orange tree in Spain still existed under all that highlighter and hustle. That once the pressure of the perfect wedding passed, we could go back to being us. Then came the toasts. Her maid of honor, Gabby, gave a speech about elevating each other's brands. My best man, Elijah, ditched his planned joke about Maya's closet taking over our guest room and instead told a sanitized version about love in the digital age. I was halfway through my second glass of champagne when Maya's manager/MC grabbed the mic and said, "Now, before we wrap this up, we've got a little surprise." Everyone turned toward the big screen. Music swelled. A highlight reel started playing. Our love story, curated, filtered, branded. Every clip perfectly timed. The beach proposal. The champagne toast. Our dog wearing a bow tie. But halfway through, the tone shifted. The video cut to a clip from that morning. Maya, alone in her bridal suite, whispering to the camera. "If you're seeing this, then it's official. I'm a wife. And I just want to thank you, yes, you, my followers, for being on this journey with me. You helped me pick my dress, my shoes, even my vows. I couldn't have done this without you." I stared at the screen. My face was nowhere in that segment. The ring wasn't even visible. It was all Maya. And the room clapped. People clapped like they'd watched the final episode of a show they were binging. Strangers congratulated her on her arc. Someone in the back yelled, "We love you, Maya." No one said a word to me. I wasn't a groom. I was a guest. At best. At worst. An unpaid extra. So I did the only thing I could. I left. I walked past the caterers. Past the photo booth. Past a child with a ring light. I didn't storm out. I didn't cause a scene. I just stepped into the vineyard shadows, pulled off my bow tie, and called an Uber. As I waited by the front gate, my phone buzzed. A DM. It was Maya. Just 2 words. "Where are you?" And I stared at that message for a long, long time. Because I didn't know how to answer it. Not truthfully. The Uber ride felt like an escape scene from a movie, one of those slow, silent ones where the main character watches the skyline blur past while a sad indie song plays. Only in this version, the main character was me, sweating through a tux in the back seat of a Prius, still wearing a wedding ring that hadn't even cooled on my finger. I didn't go home. I went to a Marriott. And I know what you're thinking, dramatic much? But it wasn't drama. It was survival. Because somewhere between the lighting checks and the hashtagged vows, I realized I had no idea who I'd just married. Or worse, maybe I did know, and I'd been pretending not to see it. For over a year. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, shoes still on, tux jacket in a heap, and checked my phone. 12 texts from Maya. "Seriously, where are you? People are asking. Are you okay? I just did the cake cutting without you." Then came the voice memo. I played it. Her voice was all edges, trying to sound composed but fraying around the corners. "Nate, I don't know what this is, but you're making a scene. If you're overwhelmed, that's fine, but people are noticing and I'm literally doing damage control. We can talk later, just don't do anything stupid. Please. Damage control. Not, I'm worried. Not, I love you. Just PR." I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. Then I threw it across the room, not hard, just enough to make it feel like a choice. Then I collapsed onto the bed and stared at the ceiling fan until the room spun slower. At 2:04 a.m., I called Elijah. He answered on the first ring. "Dude. Are you alive? I'm in a Marriott. Room 614. I think I just bailed on my own wedding. He exhaled like he'd been holding it in all night. Okay. Good. Good. I mean good that you're safe, he said quickly. But yeah, also good. Because I've been wanting to say this since you proposed, Maya doesn't see you. She sees your potential, your proximity, your aesthetic. But not you. That's dramatic, I muttered, even though it was exactly what I'd been thinking hours earlier. It's not. Dude, she made your dog sign an NDA. That part was true. Maya had posted a whole, behind-the-scenes, vlog about our engagement shoot and made me pixelate our dog's tag so no one could stalk us. And she said it with a straight face. Elijah sighed again. Listen, I didn't say anything before because I figured maybe I was being cynical. But tonight? I watched you disappear into her brand. I watched her film your first dance like it was a B-roll insert. And when you left, she didn't even ask me if you were okay. She asked me if anyone had posted about it yet. I felt something crack in my chest. Not shatter, just shift. Like a window that had been stuck finally sliding open. What do I do? I asked. Elijah didn't hesitate. You get out. You get a lawyer. You untangle yourself from the brand deal that is your marriage before it's too late. I let that sink in. Then I laughed. Quietly. Bitterly. She's going to spin it, I said. She's going to cry on camera. Say I had cold feet. Maybe even make it some kind of empowerment arc. Then let her, he said. Let her have the narrative. You take the truth. I hung up a few minutes later. Not because I ran out of things to say. But because I finally knew what I had to do. I opened my laptop, connected to the hotel Wi-Fi, and started writing an email. Subject line, this is not a statement. It's a decision. Because sometimes, walking away isn't quitting. It's the first honest thing you do. By morning, it had already begun. I woke up to a phone that looked like it was under siege, dozens of notifications, mentions, tagged photos, and a new follower count that somehow increased after I ghosted my own wedding. Maya had posted. Not a breakdown. Not an explanation. A carousel. The first image. Her in the second wedding dress, barefoot in the vineyard, hand on heart, eyes shining with perfectly lit sadness. The caption. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes the fairy tale isn't the ending, it's the lesson. Thank you all for your support as Nate and I navigate this unexpected chapter. Please be kind. Hashtag healing, hashtag growth, hashtag Nayaya no more. Nayaya no more. She made a breakup brandyable. And the comments? OMG Queen, you are so strong. His loss. Manifesting peace for you both. Can't wait for the GRWM, get ready with me, breakup edition. I was barely out of bed, still wearing one sock and an empty ring finger, and the world already thought I'd ghosted a goddess. My inbox had interview requests. My college roommate texted, bro. You okay? Followed by a link to an influencer gossip Reddit thread titled, he left her for the clout. I hadn't even left her. Not the real her. Because somewhere along the way, she'd disappeared. I didn't respond. To anyone. Except my lawyer. Yeah. I called one. Because it turns out that when your wedding is part of a monetized content funnel with a brand sponsor, pulling the plug has legal implications. The cake was gifted, but the venue was paid for with a partnership grant. Maya had built a 4-tier affiliate empire around our nuptials. The napkin font had a trademark. The attorney, her name was Quinn, and she was terrifying in the best way, walked me through everything. So, she said after an hour of parsing hashtags and contract clauses, you're not just walking away from a marriage. You're walking away from a business arrangement disguised as love. I blinked. Can I do that? She leaned forward. You must. So we started. We drafted a statement, not to the press, but to the brands. A polite, direct notice of disassociation. We reviewed every contract my name had been tied into and started the extraction. I had to email the monogrammed champagne flute company and say, respectfully, I no longer endorse these items. Then, we went personal. I deleted the shared calendar. I shut down the joint account I had barely touched. I boxed the wedding suit and the bride and groom mugs we never even used and dropped them at the front desk with a note, "Return to sender." Then I wrote Maya a letter. A real one. No edits. No hashtags. Just pen, paper, and the truth. Maya. You're brilliant. Ambitious. Magnetic in a way few people are. But somewhere between your followers and your future plans, you stopped seeing me. Or maybe you only saw the version of me that worked for your feed. I don't blame you for chasing your dream. I just wish I hadn't become part of the scenery. This was never supposed to be a campaign. I wanted a life. Not a launch. I hope you find peace, and not just in filtered photos. Nate. I didn't know if she'd read it. But I sent it anyway. That night, I stayed at Elijah's place. We drank beer on the fire escape and talked like we used to in college, when we were broke, dumb, and honest. You ever think love's just not made for people like us? I asked. Elijah shrugged. I think real love doesn't need a comment section. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, I exhaled without performing it. It happened 2 days later. Maya went live. Not a reel. Not a filtered post with an inspirational quote and her signature sparkly font. A raw, unedited, 47-minute Instagram live titled, "What Really Happened." I found out because my phone exploded with texts like, "Dude, she's crying on camera. She's saying you manipulated her. Should I be commenting hearts or fire emojis or what?" I didn't even open the app at first. I went for a run instead. 3 miles in jeans and a hoodie, no headphones, just the sound of my own breath reminding me I existed outside of a screen. But by the time I got back to Elijah's apartment, the video had been reposted by 5 influencer drama accounts, dissected in a Reddit thread with 800 comments, and clipped into a YouTube reaction titled, "The Bride Who Got Left and Went Viral." Curiosity 1. I watched. There she was, on her beige velvet couch, ring gone, lashes still perfect. "I didn't want to do this," she began, voice trembly in that way that always made her seem fragile and powerful at the same time. "But you deserve honesty." She sniffed. I loved Nate. I do love Nate. But he always had one foot out the door. Even during planning. He wasn't excited. He didn't engage. And I know people will say I'm too much, or that I made it all about social media, but this is my career. And I was building a life that included him. He knew what he signed up for. She paused. Let that hang in the air. He used me for exposure. He let me plan everything, then bailed. Without warning. I found out he left from the drone guy. The drone guy, for the record, was named Travis. He was 22, wore Crocs, and had apologized to me in the hotel parking lot. Bro, this is wild. I just filmed stuff. I kept watching. Maya's voice broke around minute 31. I just wanted to be chosen. Publicly. Loudly. I wanted the world to see someone say, "Yes, I love you enough to do this big thing." And instead, he walked out like I was a press release. She cried. And I felt it. Not guilt. Not anger. Just this weird, melancholy ache. Because the saddest part? She believed it. In her story, I was the villain who couldn't handle a woman with ambition. In mine, I was the guy who finally realized he'd mistaken content for connection. And maybe both of us were right. And wrong. The internet didn't care. By that night, #runawaygroom was trending. Some users were on my side. Others tore me apart. Someone found my old SoundCloud and declared, "Should have known from this acoustic cover of Mr. Brightside." Even brands weighed in. One candle company subtweeted me, "We stan men who show up. Not ghost." Elijah suggested we go to a bar. I went to the grocery store instead. Because in the middle of all the noise, I realized something. No one had actually asked me what happened. Not the followers. Not the brands. Not even Maya. She'd written the script. Cast herself as the heartbroken hero. And left me somewhere off-screen. So I opened my notes app and wrote. I didn't leave a wedding. I left a performance. I wanted to be a husband. Not a hashtag. Nate. I didn't post it. I just read it. Then I made pasta, watched an episode of Planet Earth, and went to sleep. Because some stories don't need an audience. Some stories need an ending. This is the final part. A month later, I was back at work, back to normal, or the version of normal you get after publicly bailing on a wedding that had a media kit. Most people at the office avoided eye contact the first few days. My boss gave me a thumbs up like I'd survived a shipwreck. One coworker dropped a manila folder on my desk and whispered, "For the record, I would have run too." Another just slid me a post-it that said, "Not all heroes wear tuxes." The memes had died down. The gossip had moved on. Maya's follower count actually went up by 100K. She did a sponsored post with a weighted blanket and a discount code called HEAL15. And me? I went silent. No statement. No subtweets. No, set the record straight, YouTube video filmed in moody lighting. Instead, I moved. Out of our shared apartment, out of the neighborhood, out of the radius where drone guys recognized me. I found a one-bedroom near a park with a terrible dishwasher and a view of a laundromat, and it was perfect. Because it was mine. I started cooking again. Not for content, just because I wanted lentils. I took long walks without documenting them. I wrote terrible music and didn't post a single track. It was like learning how to breathe in a different atmosphere. And then, one afternoon, I got a letter. Not an email. Not a DM. A real envelope, in real handwriting. It was from Maya. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Nate. I've told this story so many times, I'm not even sure I know the truth anymore. But I watched our wedding video last night, the one no one saw, the private one. And I finally saw it. You were disappearing in real time. I thought love meant broadcasting it. Making it public. Making it big. I forgot that maybe you were the only audience that mattered. I'm sorry. Maya. No grand gesture. No request to talk. Just, a page. I stared at it for a long time. Then I folded it, slid it into the back of my notebook, and sat on the floor for reasons I still don't fully understand. And I cried. Not because I missed her. Because I didn't. I missed the idea of what I thought we were. Of who I thought I was supposed to be. A husband. A partner. A co-star. But what I really needed to be was real. A month after that, I went on a date. No cameras. No hashtags. No curated wine pairings. Just me, a woman named Ivy, and a picnic table with uneven legs. We talked about horror movies, bad tattoos, and the worst weddings we'd ever attended. I told her mine was interactive. She laughed, for real. At the end, she didn't ask for a picture. She asked if I wanted to go for ice cream. It felt like nothing. It felt like everything. Because here's what I learned from becoming a groom in a love story I didn't write. Love is not a caption. It's not a post that lands or a video that trends. Love is someone who sees you when there's no ring light, no audience, no reason to smile except that you're finally free to. And if you ever find yourself standing at an altar, waiting for someone to put their phone down, you already have your answer. Not every love story ends in a wedding. Some begin the moment you walk away from the wrong one.